Doc Rivers got fired.
Oh, yeah.
I got some thoughts about this. I want to hear yours first. That's how we're going to wrap this up.
I mean, I'm kind of the guy where, like, obviously, if you're losing and you think coach is the reason, like, you can get rid of him. And I don't know, there's a lot of theories bouncing around. When Kawhi wanted him, they didn't want him. Paul George, like, who knows? But my thing is, like, are you going to find a guy better than Doc Rivers out there? In the current coaching pool? I mean, you got Ty Lue. I think he's a good coach. But Ty Lue is already on this coaching staff. So he could potentially be part of the problem. I mean, you got... I can't even think of that many names out there that would be sufficient replacements. I mean, you got Mike D'Antoni out there, but I don't think you want that. That's what I'm saying. I'm always like, I'm always a guy. I've always been like slow to fire coaches.
I agree. Oh, especially in the NBA, it's a very
and it's like, dude, Paul George. I mean, we ran out those abysmal stats in Game 7. If they win that Game 7 and Kawhi hits his shots, like. We're not having this conversation because I think if he loses to the Lakers, if you lose to the Lakers in 6 or 7, that's a thing where it's like, that happens. They're the best team in the NBA. But, I mean, if he can hit his shots, we're not here. But here we are.
Here's what and I don't think Doc Rivers is necessarily a bad coach.
I mean, he's definitely not.
But he's definitely
not a bad coach.
And was this necessarily all his fault? No. He seems like a scapegoat for Paul George missing a lot of shots. But that being said, you're going to blame Paul George and all of them for him getting fired. Look at the guys that Doc Rivers has coached over the course of his career. You have Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen. They only won 1 ring out of that. Then with the Clippers, he has not made it out of the second round. And you had Chris Paul, you had Blake Griffin in his prime, and DeAndre Jordan when they were good. And they couldn't make it out of the second round. That's a problem. Now you have Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Lou Williams, you have all these great players, and they looked very disinterested in these playoffs, where I think the art of coaching is, like, you have to know how to manage egos and get your guys engaged. And I think that's why, like, you look at guys like Phil Jackson or Steve Kerr. These guys, loaded rosters. It should be easy to win. Well, what Doc Rivers has proven, even with a good roster, it's not easy to win. Coaching egos like this, and guys like that, is an art. You have to know how to do it well. There's a lot of, like, you have to know how to manage a locker room and, like, with these guys and, like, their egos. I think so. Phil Jackson and Steve Kerr deserve more credit for what they've done, especially a guy like Steve Kerr, because they take talent and they win. If you look at it, it's a pretty damning record if you look at the guys he's coached.
That Clippers team, they were never... That's a lot of names. That's a lot of brand names, and they were not...
That's a lot of good players he's had. That's what it is.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at their stacked teams. I mean, I don't put a lot of stock in DeAndre Jordan or Blake Griffin, even when they're in their prime. They did a lot of cool windmill dunks and alley-oops, but when you deconstruct that team was not a super team by any means.
Made it out of the second round.
Yeah, they could have made it out of the second round.
This team definitely should have made it out of the second round.
Okay, but you look at this team, though. You look at Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is not a leader. He has never been a leader, and that's fine. But last year, you had 2 dudes who are championship caliber players, and which we saw this year with Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry, especially Kyle Lowry. Those 2 dudes led the chemistry, and that's fine. You need players to step up when it's time to shine. And you even had reports this year of Paul George saying, we got to keep it together. After Game 7 when they lose, he's in the locker room saying, we got to keep it together. He's saying, this wasn't our year to compete. I think it totally falls on his players' hands. Like, your coach, he can draw up X and O's, and he can give you speeches all you want, but if your players they don't have it in their DNA to win championships.
I mean, Kawhi's proven he does have it in his DNA to win championships, because he's done it with 2 different teams.
Yeah, but but if you're looking for a natural leader, because you need a player who's going to be a leader, and it's not Kawhi Leonard, and it was no one on that staff, or on that roster was going to do it. You can get, I definitely think, Doc Rivers has blown 3-1 leads before, and you can put a notch in the belt of him being a bad coach, but he's proven he's a great coach, and this is not on him. I don't think this is on him.
I would not call him a great coach. He's proven he is an adequate NBA coach, and he probably didn't deserve to get fired for this.
He did.
But where there's smoke, there's fire. He's had a lot of good rosters, and he's blown a lot of leads. And you know what? When Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant were first starting out, they weren't considered great leaders either. The coach is supposed to be the leader in the locker room. So, I mean, you can't put it all on Kawhi. I mean, yeah, actually, you can put a lot on Kawhi, but... Like, you can't expect him to be the, like, he wasn't necessarily, he didn't have to be the leader in Toronto. He didn't have to be the leader with the Spurs. Because Greg Popovich was the leader of those teams.
That's my point.
Right. Well, if you're saying...
No.
Doc Rivers should have been the leader here then. Greg Popovich, when Kawhi was in...
Okay, but no, that's my point is, obviously he's the leader, but you need someone on the basketball court who's actually putting the basketball in his hands. You need a leader there. And they didn't have one. They didn't even have close to one. And like I said before, I mean, Kawhi and Paul George, your finals MVP, and the dude who you traded $1 billion first-round draft picks, they didn't hit a single shot in the fourth quarter. That's insane. That's not Doc Rivers' fault. That's an abnormality in the general basketball world.
Put any of it on him? I think it's at least 30.
A finals MVP didn't make a single shot, and you're going to say, yeah, it's the coach's fault.
I think it's 70-30.
70-30.
70 on the
Doc
players.
Rivers on the court shooting threes.
70 on the players. 70-30. That's still 30%.
I mean, like, I don't know what more you can do. I mean, you made the same argument with Joe Madden last year. Joe Madden is a good coach, but the Chicago Cubs couldn't hit a dang baseball to save their lives, and you can put some on the coach at that point, but it gets time where Joe Madden is not teeing off in the batter's box. Doc Rivers isn't shooting threes. He's not shooting threes off the side of the backboard like Paul George is. I understand, but
being an NBA coach is a lot easier than an MLB manager. Managing a bullpen's hard. Putting your 5 best guys on the court
I'm
isn't.
not saying that. I'm not saying that's what I'm saying. Putting your 5 best guys on the court. He's
the fact he hasn't been able to make it out of the second round with all the talent he has coached over his career, even with the Celtics. There's a reason they traded him to the Clippers in the first place because they stopped like. They only won one title.
I'm just saying,
with that
if you want to pull up the pedigree of Doc Rivers, that's like to each their own. But in this isolated situation, this is what happened. The Clippers are like, this is our year. Kawhi's the king. The third best player on the Lakers is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. We should win this year. And then they pulled the trigger because they thought they had it in the bag when they got all these dudes together. They got all these name guys together. And then they couldn't win. And they pulled the trigger saying they got to find someone's fault. And it's Doc Rivers.
Yeah, but I think, is it fair to say that he might just be a B-plus coach? He's not in the same class as the Popoviches or...
I don't know a lot of people who are claiming that he is.
Well, I mean, you look at your Doc Rivers, you're like, oh, he's a top-tier NBA coach. I think he's a B-plus NBA. I don't think he's anything special.
B-plus is 88%. I don't think anyone's going to...
He's not bad.
Yeah, that's
that
what I'm
wasn't
saying.
the complete reason they lost, but it's not his first time he's done this. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we know. And no one's saying no one's putting Phil Jackson on there. I mean, but that's what I said. Who else are you going to get? You going to toss Ty Lue in there? Who the only success he's had is because he got dragged over by LeBron James.
Jim Boylan's available. And you know he's going to be calling some timeouts and making them practice on off
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You got a B-plus coach in there. Who's going to be better? You got a bunch of C's and D's in the coaching pool right now.
Maybe.
The best coach available is Mike D'Antoni.
We'll find out. Do you think, with this Clippers roster, do you think they're making it out of the second round next year?
I mean, they should.
Yeah, I think they will. And if they do,
and if they do, it'll be because no.
Interesting.
No.
Very interesting.
Because here's what's gonna happen: the Clippers make it out of the second round next year. It'll probably be because either Kawhi or Paul George or both hit 30 points. And if that had happened, Doc Rivers would still be the coach of the Los Angeles Clippers, and we wouldn't be having this conversation because it's on the players.
Perhaps. I think this is the last straw, though. I think this is for more things leading up to it. Because this one was more on the players.
Okay, but you look at the Clippers last year. The fact they even made the playoffs is insane. With their best player being Lou Williams or Montrezl Harrell or Pat Beverly.
It's not hard to make the playoffs in the NBA.
Yeah, but they gave the best team, the Warriors, with a healthy Kevin Durant for some of the series. They gave them a good fight. I mean, that's a team, well, I digress. That comes to the end of the pod.
His vocal cords are ashy as hell, so they couldn't understand the plays he was drawing up.
Hey, hit some threes. No, coach, sorry.
You want us to miss the threes?
I'm just here to, get with some Instagram model here in LA.
That's all we have for you. Thank you so much for listening. enjoy your football weekend and MLB weekend and MLB finals. We will be back with our recap.
Darvish, bad news day,
week.
baby.
That's right.